All right, hi guys. So today we're going to continue on with our journey with Mr. Stevie Wonder. Because it is our second to last week of school, we're not going to be able to get through the whole book, not of school, sorry, of virtual school. We're not going to be able to get through the whole book, so I'm going to be kind of picking and choosing chapters for these next 2 weeks to kind of make sure that I get the really, really cool and important parts of Stevie's life. So this week we're going to kind of learn about his first album that he makes. Now, Stevie was 11 to 12 years old when he made this. So not much older than you guys, still in middle school, right? And this is when he made his album. We're going to kind of hear about some challenges that he had when he made this album. So let's get further into our book about Stevie Wonder. Chapter 4, Fingertips. Everyone at Motown agreed that little Stevie was a real wonder. But now what? He was only 11 years old. Would he sing love songs? Or play high-energy dance tunes? Or show off his talent at playing the harmonica and other instruments? No one could quite figure out where exactly he fit into the musical picture. Stevie's first album, The Jazz Soul of Little Stevie, was released in 1962. It was an instrumental. That means there were no words to any of the songs. So if you think about when we are in class together and I play our song of the day where you guys have to guess what the song is and there's no words in it, that's what an instrumental means. Stevie played the bongos, keyboard, harmonica, and other instruments on the album, but he didn't sing at all. Unfortunately, the album didn't sell very well. Just 1 month later, Stevie's second album was released, Tribute to Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray was Ray Charles, a very famous singer who was not actually related to Stevie, but who was also blind. Ray Charles was 20 years older than Stevie. On his tribute album, Stevie sang Ray's popular songs, but his second album didn't sell very well either. Sadly, Stevie's early recordings didn't capture the fun and excitement he showed when he played for friends or studio executives. Whenever there was an audience present, Stevie really seemed to come alive. So Berry Gordy sent Steve on a tour called Motortown Revue late in 1962. Steve joined Marvin Gaye, The Miracles, The Supremes, The Temptations, and other acts on the Motown Revue. So this is a picture of his first album cover, kind of like a drawing of it. And then here's a little flyer. They rode 2 old buses and several cars into 36 cities over 56 days. That's over 2 months, you guys. They performed almost every night. It was an exhausting tour, especially for 12-year-old Stevie. Here's all of them together getting on a bus for their tour. Until the tour, Stevie had little experience with racism. Kids had called him names before, but he'd never felt racial intolerance like he did while on the tour. Some of the stops were at mostly white towns in the South, where racism was still very strong. In some cities, Stevie was not allowed to eat in the same restaurants or use the same bathrooms that white people did. After one show in Birmingham, Alabama, the performers heard gunshots as they were leaving. Later, the driver found bullet holes in the Motortown Revue sign on the other side on one of their buses. So one day when they were in Alabama, someone shot at one of their buses because of racism. Near the end of the tour, the group was happy to arrive in one of the more tolerant cities, such as New York, where they performed at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. That's a huge, important theater. Little Stevie was a big hit with the audiences on tour. He sometimes stayed on the stage playing far longer than he was supposed to. Clarence Paul occasionally had to come on stage and drag Stevie off. That's Clarence Paul pulling him off and saying, "All right, Stevie, it's time to go. Let's go." Because he often invited the audiences to sing and clap along with him, some famous performers found it difficult to go on after Stevie. After one performance, Diana Ross, the lead singer of the Supremes, asked, "How are we supposed to follow that?" Because Stevie was just so entertaining that everyone else was like, "Well, that was so awesome. How am I supposed to go on after that?" At the Regal Theater in Chicago in early 1963, Stevie began playing the bongos when he walked on stage and, as usual, had the crowd involved right away. "I want you to clap your hands," he told the audience. Come on, yeah, stomp your feet, jump up and down, do anything that you want to do, yeah. Stevie was about to play the song called Fingertips, which had been on his first album. However, instead of playing Fingertips on the bongos like he usually did, Stevie grabbed his harmonica and played it on that. When the song was over, with the crowd on his feet, Paul escorted Stevie off the stage. So this is Stevie with his bongos, and instead of playing it with his bongos, do I have it here? He played it with his harmonica. So as we know, a harmonica is a really small instrument like this. So he played it on a harmonica, which is a wind instrument, instead of playing it on his bongos, which is obviously a percussion instrument. That drum's not exactly a bongo, it's a djembe, but similar concept. So he basically like turned the song upside down and played it on a harmonica instead of a bongo, which is totally different instruments. But Stevie returned and continued to play. The surprise band members tried to keep up as Stevie launched into another lively version of the song. The crowd went wild. Several months later, Mr. Gordy had an unusual idea. He'd released Stevie's live Chicago performance. It was unusual to release a live performance as a 7-inch single record. On that single, the public was able to hear the real Stevie in action. The joy of his music came through, and fans loved it. So instead of him sitting in a studio and like in a bare room like this and singing the song into a microphone and then playing that on the CD, they just took a recording of the actual like live concert when they were really excited with Stevie, and they just used that, and people were able to see like how awesome Stevie was when he was live because they were able to see that on the CD now. One side of the record was Fingertips. The other side was Fingertips Part 2, the second part of the song Stevie played after returning to stage at the Regal Theater. Fingertips Part 2 soared up in the record charts. Everybody, black audience and white audiences, seemed to love Fingertips Part 2. The record sold more than 1 million copies and was number 1 on both Billboard's Hot 100 and R&B lists. No other song had ever been number 1 on the 2 charts at the same time before. The single was included on Stevie's first successful album, recorded live, The 12-Year-Old Genius. Stevie was 13 by the time the album was finished and sold in stores. It became the first Motown album to reach number 1 on the Billboard charts. Fingertips Part 2 was a huge hit. Marvin Gaye, who had played the drums on the song, said, "You really had to start paying attention to Stevie after Fingertips." So this is Stevie with his new album. And remember, he was 13 and he was getting number 1 songs on multiple lists at the same time just because of how amazing he was to perform on stage, which is so cool, right? So next week will be our last week with our friend Stevie Wonder, and you're gonna go listen to I think it's a New Year's Stevie Wonder song now. So go ahead and go check that out, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.